As China deepens ties with Iran, President Marcos Jr. faces mounting pressure defending Philippine sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea. With global powers watching, rising tensions could reshape regional security, test U.S. commitments, and force Manila to navigate a dangerous balance between diplomacy, energy interests, and the fight to protect national waters. In recent months, the geopolitical chessboard spanning the Middle East to Southeast Asia has been marked by heightened tension, strategic maneuvering, and complex alliances. Analysts and diplomats are asking whether China is leveraging its partnership with Iran to divert U.S. attention from its assertive activities in the West Philippine Sea. To answer this, one must examine the evolving China-Iran relationship, recent developments in the West Philippine Sea, and the United States' position as a global security guarantor under mounting pressure. At the heart of this discussion is the long-standing relationship between China and Iran, which has matured significantly over the past decade. Publicly, both countries describe their ties as a comprehensive strategic partnership. In practice, it is largely driven by economic interests, diplomatic leverage, and careful balancing rather than a formal military pact targeting the United States. China's engagement with Iran has intensified in response to regional instability, sanctions imposed on Tehran by the West, and Beijing's desire to secure energy for its expanding economy. In May 2026, top diplomats from China and Iran held high-level discussions in Beijing. They focus on energy security, trade, and regional stability. Officials emphasized mutual respect for sovereignty, economic collaboration, and peaceful conflict resolution. At the same time, both nations pursued their own strategic interests, reflecting a complex but calculated partnership. For Iran, China represents a critical economic lifeline. Beijing is Tehran's largest oil buyer, helping to offset the effects of Western sanctions. Economic cooperation, infrastructure investment, and diplomatic support strengthen Iran's position in international negotiations. For China, the benefits include energy security, strategic influence, and the ability to project power in global affairs without committing military resources. This mutually advantageous arrangement allows the nations to expand influence while avoiding direct military confrontation with the United States. While China has expressed willingness to support diplomatic solutions in the Middle East, it has remained careful to avoid military entanglement, demonstrating a deliberate strategy of influence without confrontation. This approach strengthens Beijing's position while keeping options open in other theaters, including Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, tensions in the West Philippine Sea remain a pressing concern. This area, claimed by the Philippines, is part of the broader South China Sea dispute. China's claims under the Nine-Dash-Line conflict with international arbitration rulings and Philippine sovereignty. The region is strategically important due to shipping routes, fishing resources, and untapped oil and gas reserves. The Philippines' enforcement of territorial rights through naval patrols, Coast Guard activities, and landings on disputed features often meets with Chinese resistance. Each side interprets these moves as testing the other's resolve, creating a high-stakes environment where miscalculations could escalate tensions. Recent incidents, such as the dispute over Sandy Cay near Thitu Island, highlight ongoing gray zone confrontations. China accused the Philippines of unauthorized landings, while Manila maintained it was exercising lawful sovereignty. These events underscore the delicate balance of power in the region, with each encounter influencing perceptions of capability, intent, and international support, particularly from the United States, which maintains security commitments under the Mutual Defense Treaty. For the Philippines, led by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the challenge is to assert sovereignty while maintaining strategic and economic flexibility. Manila has continued robust defense cooperation with the United States, while exploring cautious dialogue with Beijing on energy and resource projects. President Marcos has acknowledged that disruptions in global oil markets, particularly those tied to the Strait of Hormuz due to regional conflicts, may create opportunities for cooperation on energy development. However, these discussions remain sensitive, as perceived concessions could weaken the Philippines' negotiating position and embolden further Chinese encroachment. The administration's approach balances engagement with vigilance, pursuing economic benefits while reinforcing legal and military measures to protect maritime claims. Critics warn that selective economic cooperation with China carries risks. Without firm safeguards, such arrangements could normalize Beijing's presence and shift regional influence over time. Proponents counter that carefully structured agreements can coexist with a strong defense posture, allowing Manila to protect sovereignty while benefiting from regional economic opportunities. The United States plays a pivotal role in this dynamic. As a security guarantor for the Philippines, Washington sees competing demands. Officials have expressed concern that the ongoing U.S.-Iran conflict may temporarily reduce attention and resources available for the Indo-Pacific. This has created perceptions of a strategic gap, prompting regional actors to hedge and diversify security arrangements. Despite these challenges, the U.S. continues to reassure allies that treaty obligations remain intact. Measures to maintain deterrence include joint exercises, diplomatic engagement, and visible military deployments in the Indo-Pacific. The perception of overextension, however, can influence regional behavior, shaping decisions on alliances, deployments, and diplomatic postures. Washington has also urged China to leverage its influence with Iran to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a critical maritime choke point. This highlights the interconnectedness of global security. Middle Eastern crises affect Southeast Asia, and energy disruptions influence regional stability and economic planning. U.S. engagement with China is part of a broader effort to stabilize multiple theaters simultaneously while avoiding direct confrontation. A recurring question among analysts is whether China's engagement with Iran is intended as a deliberate distraction to pull U.S. focus away from the West Philippine Sea. Evidence suggests a more nuanced reality. China's primary motivations appear economic and diplomatic rather than strategically diversionary. The partnership strengthens Beijing's influence in the Middle East and supports Tehran's economy, producing effects on U.S. attention that are incidental rather than intentional. Nevertheless, the interaction of these crises affects regional perceptions. Even if the distraction is not deliberate, simultaneous pressures in the Middle East and Southeast Asia create a complex environment where strategic attention is divided. For Southeast Asian nations, this reality underscores the importance of autonomous defense, diplomatic agility, and careful economic engagement. Several broader lessons emerge. Sovereignty requires a multifaceted approach. The Philippines must continue to leverage diplomatic, legal, and military tools to protect territorial claims while avoiding unilateral actions that might provoke escalation. Economic cooperation can coexist with strategic vigilance if safeguards are in place. Alliances remain critical but not infallible. The United States' security role is vital, yet commitments can be influenced by simultaneous global crises. Perceptions shape behavior, even absent deliberate manipulation. The appearance of distraction or disengagement can alter regional calculations. Finally, interconnected crises demand integrated responses. Events in the Middle East and Southeast Asia are increasingly linked through trade, energy, and security dynamics, requiring nuanced policy responses. The China-Iran partnership is multifaceted, driven by economic and political interests, rather than an overt strategy to divert U.S. attention. And its effects on Southeast Asia, however, are tangible. Manila must defend sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea while navigating broader global pressures. President Marcos and his administration are implementing a strategy that balances diplomacy, economic engagement, and defense readiness. This approach reflects a key principle in contemporary geopolitics. Sovereignty and security are preserved through a combination of strength, flexibility, and engagement even amid simultaneous crises across distant regions. For policymakers and regional actors, the lesson is clear: global crises are interconnected. Effective strategy requires robust alliances and a nuanced understanding of how strategic partnerships, economic dependencies, and territorial disputes interact. While it may appear that China is using Iran to distract the United States, the reality is far more complex. The interplay of interests in Tehran, Beijing, Manila, and Washington will continue to shape security and influence in the Indo-Pacific for years to come. The Philippines' ability to assert sovereignty, maintain alliances, and pursue strategic diplomacy amid overlapping pressures may define its role in a multipolar world. The challenge is safeguarding national interests while navigating a world in which territorial disputes, great power competition, and regional conflicts intersect in unpredictable ways.